Let's talk about an amazing superhero series. And when I say it's one of the best, if not the best superhero series, I don't take that lightly because I've watched a lot of them. I watched a lot of Marvel, I've watched a lot of DC. And some of them have great special effects, some of them have really good plot lines, and some of them have very compelling characters. But that being said, none of them hits home. None of them really feels as amazing as the Dark Knight trilogy by Christopher Nolan. And I don't know if they'll ever do something like that again. And why I say that is I watched all the old Batman movies and I love them. I love the villains, I love the acting, I thought that was great. But really, these three movies, you just can't beat them. And honestly, when I watch superhero movies, I like a lot of things. I do like the special effects, I like the characters, but it just doesn't come close to Batman Begins, then The Dark Knight Rises, and then eventually he isn't Batman anymore. He's just living his regular life or trying to get on with it, where he left off. And why I think this is so important to kind of look at this series and really get all the details is because it shows Batman in a new light. It really tackles some philosophical questions, it tackles some societal questions. It really gets to kind of the heart of what I would say Bruce Wayne is all about and how he wants to also just exist as a regular person. Because let's face it, sometimes when we look at superheroes, we want them to have cool powers. Like we want Superman to be able to fly around and hit people with lasers out of his eyes and be able to just knock people around. And that's great. Or even characters like the Flash that can run super fast. Characters like the Hulk can just, he can grow into a huge monster and throw things around. But there's something about Batman I think that people really love is that the fact that it's just a regular guy. Just a regular guy, but also who happens to be a billionaire. And I've always thought, hey, if I was a billionaire, what would I do? Maybe invent the Iron Man suit, but more likely invent a lot of what Batman's done. The Batmobile, all the different flying things, some of these different systems. And why I really think this is great is the fact that simply having all of these things together, you can really kind of connect with Batman on a more human level. You can see who he really is and really kind of understand where he's coming from, his motivations. It's not just saying, hey, I have superpowers and I can beat up the bad guys because I have superpowers and I want to defend humanity. There's an actual real reason why he's doing what he's doing. The motivations seem real to me. Also, the villain's motivations seem real to me, and I think no one's ever going to beat the Joker. That's just an amazing villain. Just exactly what I picture the Joker to be. That's what he was. And as far as I'm concerned, I've seen a lot of different Jokers. I think Heath Ledger topped it. That being said, let's start at Batman Begins, and then we'll move through the series. So Batman Begins is the typical Batman story as we see Bruce falling into a well, being scared of bats with his childhood friend Rachel, who's also a potential love interest. And she, I do believe, has feelings for him, but then also in the next movie kind of loses them a bit to the commissioner, which we'll talk about, or loses them to the DA, Harvey Dent, which we'll talk about. But in Batman Begins, we get to see him and Rachel. He falls into the well, he sees the bats, gets frightened, then his parents pick him up, and he's okay. And then you get to see them kind of riding along the subway. They're very rich and affluent. They're at the opera house, and then as he comes out, we all know the typical Batman story, tries to stop a mugging, and his parents get shot, and he's in disarray. Now, what I love Christopher Nolan's one is a lot of the Batman accounts, yes, his parents die, then he just decides to kind of become Batman. This one was really cool because he doesn't just say, oh, okay, I'm going to jump in as Batman. He's really, really mad, and then he gets a gun and says, I'm going to kill the person who did it. Brings it to the court, but then finds out, hey, he ratted on some people, and the mob takes him out. And then he shows Rachel the gun. She slaps him and says, you know what, your parents would be ashamed you're trying to take revenge and kill somebody. I think that really shows the human connection of, wait, this guy killed my parents. I didn't get to kill him. Maybe I shouldn't be deciding to kill people. So it kind of gives a human account of Batman saying, well, why would I actually kill these people? Justice will come to them in one way or another. Like Ra's al Ghul at the end of Batman Begins, where he says, I don't have to kill you, but I don't have to save you either. And villains do die. I think the only villain really that doesn't die is the Joker, but doesn't really explain what happens to him, but I'm okay with a cliffhanger. That being said, so he doesn't get revenge. He feels bad, and then she drives him down to where the big mob boss is. He has that classic line, you know, when him and Bruce are, you know, sitting down, that this is a world you'll never understand, and you always fear what you don't understand, and then the mob boss just throws him out. So, yeah, the mob boss didn't kill his parents, but he's just, the mob's completely destroying Gotham. And that's what his parents fought so hard to protect, to preserve. So seeing that, he gives his money and his belongings to a homeless guy, and then kind of heads off, you know, just kind of running up to an adventure. And then eventually he finds an individual while traveling called Ra's al Ghul. This dude puts him through the works, makes him just train super hard. He's in freezing conditions. He's getting beat up. He's trying to fight ninjas, and that's kind of, it shows how Batman got his skills, because it was always kind of weird for me to see Batman like, okay, Bruce Wayne just got all these fighting skills. I get they can get high-tech technology because you're a billionaire. Why not? But where did Batman always get like his ability to fight and punch and kind of sneak around? Where does that come from? You know, it's never really explained to me in the cartoons and the comics, but now it kind of was. And it was cool to see him train with ninjas, train with Ra's al Ghul. You know, at one point he knocks him down and says yield, and then he cracks the ice and makes him fall through. So Ra's al Ghul's kind of actually a really good mentor to him. He's a really good fighter, and I think, you know, for a lot of people, you know, who were into the comics but kind of watch Batman a little bit, well, you know, it's kind of interesting to see Ra's al Ghul portrayed as a villain, but also kind of as a good guy. He believes in balance. I've seen a lot of people compare him to the Joker. I don't necessarily agree. And the reason I don't agree is because Ra's al Ghul wants balance, the Joker just wants pure chaos. So there's a fundamental difference there. However, he goes through his training, and then Ra's al Ghul's last mission for him, last thing to join the League of Shadows, is he pulls out a prisoner and it gives him a sword and says, Bruce, you have to kill this person. Now, Bruce, defaulting back to the time when he didn't get revenge for his parents, said, no, I'm not going to kill this person. He says, you have to do it. Then they get in a big fight. He's fighting the ninjas, and he burns down the place and leaves Ra's al Ghul for dead. And having returned, it kind of shows how Batman gets his suit in order, how he uses his billions to kind of figure it out, but it's not perfect. You know, he's able to kind of construct this crazy suit, and then he tries to talk to Commissioner Gordon, but kind of falls down the steps. It's a really funny, weird looking, like Ninja Turtle ninja suit, and he's not very maneuverable in it, and just kind of falls down and messes up. But then he's able to figure out his suit, take down the mob boss, which is good, but then he's finding the mob bosses are being put into this crazy facility where Scarecrow's giving them that scare drug and freaking them all out. And that's also where Joker is, but doesn't get to it until the next film. So that being said, they, you know, go all out on Gotham. Ra's al Ghul comes to his house where he's having a party. Bruce is back and knocks Bruce out, does the same thing to him. Ra's al Ghul believes in balance, you see. So since Batman left him for dead and everything burning, even though he saved him, he does kind of the same thing. Bruce's house is burnt, and they start this all-out assault on Gotham with all the crazy people coming out of Crane Place. Crane is just basically riding around in a horse, freaking out everybody, and Ra's al Ghul is trying to get that. They have some fear serum on a train, and he's trying to get to the heart of Gotham to basically get everybody infected with this. That way Gotham will kind of be cleansed in his view, because he's seen Gotham as being overrun with criminals and crime and things like that. And Ra's al Ghul has a different motivation. He says when a society becomes corrupt, when people are running around and being rampant and evil and things like that, you just kind of cleanse it. You just kind of get rid of them, and that restores balance. It also hurts a lot of people, though. So I'm not going to say Ra's al Ghul's balance idea or Bruce's idea is the best, or even the Joker's. I think some healthy mixture of them is good, even in contemporary terms. That's a big debate among people who are in ethics and philosophy, and that's one thing I really like about the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Begins, and even or the Dark Batman Begins and the Dark Knight Rises. Brings up some philosophical questions. It brings up some concepts that you really think about and say, well, instead of this guy just being a villain, instead of the Joker just being a villain, was he right on some things? Was Ra's al Ghul right in some things? There's some crazy ways of looking at it. It's not to justify their actions, but to kind of look into them and see who they really are, why are they doing these things, and how are they going through with it. But short and sweet, Batman's able to save the day, able to give Crane a taste of his own medicine, save Rachel and the boy she's with, and also kind of just fight Ra's al Ghul. He doesn't kill him. He just says, I don't have to kill you, but I don't have to save you. Ra's al Ghul accepts his fate, and he derails the train, and Ra's al Ghul is killed. Now, that being said, he talks to Commissioner Gordon, and then he's become a lieutenant. He's getting more of a rank, and then he shows him the Joker card, and Batman Begins ends there. Now, when I first watched Batman Begins, I really didn't get all the feeling of it. I had to watch The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, and then kind of circle back and come back to it. I think it's really cool because you get to see that scene, when The Dark Knight Rises, where he's with Commissioner Gordon, and that feels really, really good. So the one that everybody loves, The Dark Knight, is amazing because it starts out with the Joker robbing a bank, and these are the mob's trace bills. And then the mob saying, hey, these guys, they're still controlling Gotham, even though Bruce Wayne has been fighting them a little bit, and the new DA, Harvey Dent's been fighting them a little bit, but they're still on the move. The Joker robs a bank, everybody's fighting the mob, and then the mob doesn't know what to do. They all have a meeting, and then Joker pops in and says, hey, we got to take out Batman. If we take out Batman, we'll be good to go. You can run business as usual. Although I don't really think Joker ever really wanted to kill Batman because he just likes the back and forth with Batman. And a lot of The Dark Knight is Batman and Joker having this power struggle where the Joker wants chaos just for the sake of chaos, and the Batman obviously wants to restore order to the Gotham. But one thing I really want to note with the Joker, why I loved him, is all of the other villains in every superhero movie, even in the Batman series, they're motivated by something. Ra's al Ghul's motivated by balance. Bane's motivated by love and trying to follow someone's plan. There's a lot, the mob's motivated by money. Other people in other universes, Thanos, he's motivated by power and using the Infinity Rings. Everybody else, Obadiah in Iron Man, they're motivated by power, money, following someone's mission, getting something done, or some spiritual concept of balance. The Joker is just motivated by chaos. He doesn't care about money. He doesn't care about, you give him this or that and then we're cool. As Alfred says, some men cannot be negotiated with, bribed, or anything like that. Some men just want to see the world burn. And that's basically Joker. And then we get to see that he actually potentially does kill Commissioner Gordon, although it's kind of revealed in the film that maybe that's not exactly how it went down. But the new commissioner is gone, so Harvey Dent takes the lead as the DA, and Harvey Dent is trying to do the right thing. That's why it's so compelling to see how Harvey Dent's doing the right thing than his inevitable fate. But, he's putting the mob behind bars. He's really getting the job done, and he's doing it without a mask. So Bruce kind of wants to retire and start a life with Rachel. But then things do turn for the worst. They're both kidnapped, and they're both tied to explosives, and then the Batman tries to interrogate the Joker. He gets both places, but he's only able to save Harvey Dent. Half of his face is burnt off, and then Rachel's inevitably killed, which really kind of messes with Batman's head. But he still has a job to do. He still has to stop the Joker. But the Joker gets to Harvey Dent first, kind of warps his mind and says, hey, as far as I'm concerned, everything is chaos. And why don't you invoke a little anarchy in the system? And then he gets him to flip the coin as your classic villain, Two-Face, and then take out the mob. And why I really like this Harvey Dent one is I watched a lot of the cartoons and stuff where Harvey Dent just gets his face burned off by some accident, and then he's just out shooting people. Well, I kind of wanted a more compelling case for Harvey Dent. Like this one, I can really understand his pain. He's really thinking, I tried to be a good guy, I tried to do everything by the rule, and still doesn't work. And even at the end of the movie where he's saying, it's not about what's right, it's about what's fair. And to him, what's fair is chance. Everybody has the same chance, so hey, let's use chance to determine everything. So that's how he's killing mob bosses. Now, in the mix of all that, Bruce Wayne's still trying to stop the Joker. However, the Joker has, taken some people hostage on different boats, and Batman's able to use this crazy surveillance system to get up there, to fight the Joker, to fight all of the people in Joker's, little gang, and then finally beat him in one last fight, where he doesn't kill him, but throws him off the edge. And to my knowledge, I watch films quite a lot, Joker's the only one he doesn't actually kill. Now, I'm not saying he tried to kill any of the other villains, but when, in the final scene, when he's struggling with Harvey Dent, when he has the gun to the commissioner's son, he has to push him off. Now, the problem is they can't reveal what Harvey did, because then that would help the mob, so basically Batman is gone as a fugitive, and you'd think Batman would be gone, as they've gotten rid of most of the mob, Gotham's clean. Bruce still has trouble returning to his old life, but then he finds the Catwoman who's trying to steal from him, and this starts off Dark Knight Rises, kind of bringing the Dark Knight back. He finds Bane's underground army, and him and Bane have a struggle where Bane is able to finally muster an army. He's able to muster an army. Batman's able to get an army of cops, and they fight for Gotham. Now, I'm not going to go into The Dark Knight Rises as much, because I think they're really two powerful films, where Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, that kind of really set the precedent. In this one, Bruce Wayne's more struggling with the fact that Rachel is gone, and that, Alfred finally tells him, hey, she was going to marry Harvey Dent. I burned that letter to save you, to kind of make you feel better. However, we get to see a lot of good fight scenes here with Batman and the villain, Bane. And what I like Bane is he's not a super big, steroided, huge guy in this one. He is a lot bigger, but he's not, too crazy. It doesn't talk about much of his past, other than he's part of the League of Shadows and he was in some pits. And it's kind of, you do feel sad for Bane, because the woman who is Ra's al Ghul's daughter, used Bane. He loved her, went along with her plan, but he never got to be with her. Bruce Wayne did, actually. However, he's able to stop Bane with the help of Selina Kyle. She actually takes Bane out, and then finally he is able to stop a bomb that Ra's al Ghul's daughter said. And then the really cool part about this series is most series end with Batman oh, okay, I'm just going to keep fighting. I'm just going to save Gotham. I'm just going to do this. But I always thought superheroes like Iron Man, Superman, that wouldn't you want to eventually stop? Wouldn't you want to eventually go back to regular life? I mean, being a superhero all the time, everywhere, it's kind of just crazy. So it's up to interpretation whether Batman died from that bomb, or whether the last scene you see with him and Selina Kyle, he's just living his normal life. I think, Christian Bale says it's up to interpretation. I think he did survive, but I'll leave that up to you. But that's kind of the interesting take I have on the Dark Knight series. All of them, I definitely think you should watch all of them. Really take a look at the details and then rewatch them, because you're not only going to really love this series, you're going to have some interesting philosophical, moral questions to reconcile with, as well as some amazing scenes you're going to want to keep coming back to. So, Christopher Nolan hit this out of the park. Check out the Dark Knight series.